Hi, my name is Maisa Ahmed and I'm an illustrator and creative graphic designer. Today I'm going to walk you through my illustration process using the Twinmarkers. If you're interested in further tips and tricks, make sure to check out our website and social media channels. As a creative designer, I work on a variation of different types of creative work, but a lot of the time I'm creating merchandise or album covers for bands, in which I do a lot of illustration work. Illustration has been around for hundreds and even thousands of years. It's used in media such as books, video games, posters, packaging material, and much more. What I love about illustration is that it's a very flexible medium and it can be done in so many different styles. With my artworks, I usually start by researching or looking for inspiration if I don't already have an idea. Then I move on to a rough sketch, followed by lining or inking, and then coloring in my artwork. I find inspiration in everything. My main muses are nature, the human body, ancient or cultural elements. And I use these to represent my emotions or reflections on life and reminders of Mother Nature. I also work digitally, but I find that working on paper is a much more relaxing and grounded activity. And having a physical connection with your artwork can be so special. For me, despite the fact that most of my work is digital, working on paper feels like my mind is more linked with the artwork. Twinmarker has a wonderfully vivid collection of colors that help make my artwork stand out. Color is an incredibly important and significant aspect for me, not only in art and design, but everything that surrounds me. Okay, I'm now going to start an illustration. The first step is our paper choice. I've chosen this A4 sized 180 gram paper, which is a nice sturdy and thick material. The colors will also absorb here nicely and the artwork will stay in good shape. Lighter paper that doesn't have a very absorbent material can make the same strokes look different, especially when overlapping strokes or colors. The colors could bleed through the back here and the paper fibers will also start to ball up. You can see here that on the thick 180 gram paper, the color is consistent and the overlapping color doesn't cause any choppiness. But on the lighter paper, it's choppy. And where the color overlaps, there will be contrasting lines. If you do want to make this effect with your artworks, for example, if you're drawing grass, I recommend a lighter uncoated paper. But if you want your color to be more even throughout the paper, then go for a thicker paper. The second step is the sketching stage. I like to use any regular lead pencil or pencil that feels comfortable and smooth. I start by noticing the composition. This is one of the most important steps because where you place your subject will dictate the rest of your artwork's journey. I want the focus to be on the subject, but I can also do this in a creative way. You can draw some rough guidelines that will help you understand where to draw your subject, like a line down the middle or a line along the horizon. I'm going to illustrate a tiger, which I want to be right in the middle. Here I'll focus on the shapes of the form that I'm either visualizing or seeing in front of me. This helps me absorb the subject in a collective manner while also focusing heavily on their proportions and movements. While I sketch the shapes, I start to draw out the lines that form, in this case, the body of the tiger. Here is where you start to see the bone structure or muscle structure of the subject. Now, I want to have the tiger surrounded by some flowers, so I'm going to think about my composition again. Where can I place the flowers? I see some white space around the body of the tiger, and I'd find it beautiful if the flowers follow the movement of the tiger's body. This can symbolize a bond or connection between my subjects, but it's also a visually appealing movement. After finishing my sketch, I'm going to outline everything with a black fine liner. The reason why I'm using a black fine liner is because when the fine liner marks dry, they don't blend in with the colors that I'm later going to use. In contrast, even after drying, the black Twinmarker can blend and mix with the colors. I don't want to use this effect for this specific illustration that I'm working on today, but in another context, this effect can be useful. For example, in the scenario of creating a shadow. Now I'm going to start outlining. This step requires attention to detail and more patience, so before I start, I make sure my body is relaxed and that my hands aren't stiff. During this process, I sometimes place the paper under the side of my palm, so that my skin doesn't rub the ink into the drawing. Once I feel ready, I start to follow the lines very carefully. I want my hand to stay relaxed so that my lines are smooth and not choppy. If at any point you feel tense or pressured to not make any mistakes, take a break from your drawing to stretch and take some deep breaths. Sometimes if I've had too much coffee, I get jittery, and so I take extra care to calm my body and control my movements. Now that I've finished the outline, I'm going to wait around 5 minutes for the ink to dry so that the colors that I'm going to use don't mix into the black ink. While we wait for my outline to dry, I'm going to show you some of the colors that I've chosen and how they work together. I've chosen this orange because I like the way it looks with the black Twinmarker. It's vibrant, but for example, compared to this orange, I prefer the prior for its more muted and natural tone. Some markers also move a little differently than others, so we want to use the markers kind of intuitively. I have a couple of colors that I absolutely adore because of the way they release ink. If I use the marker in an up and down stroke, the color looks more consistent. But if I do small quick strokes, you can see more depth and gradient. I love the overlay it has, it looks very natural. Now that my ink is dry, I'm going to start by coloring in the flowers. The Twinmarker's collection of colors are absolutely gorgeous, and I've already chosen the colors I'm going to use for my illustration. What's great about this marker is that you can attach either two different colored brush tips, which have these beautiful strokes, or you can attach a brush tip and a round tip. I like to keep my work organized, and this is incredibly useful for me because I'm going to attach a pair of colors for each subject. I'm going to use this red at the upper edges of the petals, and I'll use the pink on the lower edges. After I've colored these in, I'm going to use this cool tool called the blend brush. This brush has no ink, but if I use it on this flower, you can see that it blends these two colors together and creates a subtle but significant gradient. You can also use the blend marker with a single color if you're looking to achieve a gradient that goes from vibrant to transparent. For the stems, I'm using this shade of green, and because my stems are very intricate, I'm going to use the round tip marker. It has a stiff tip that allows for detail and intricacy. Now I'm going to color in the leaves, and I'm using a mustard and a moss color. I love these colors because they're so earthy and interesting to look at. Now I'm going to outline the tiger's form in orange with a round tip brush. And I'm also going to outline around any areas that I don't want the orange to go to. For example, the eyes, teeth, and mouth. However, I am going to be including the tiger's stripes with the orange, since they will be colored with black later. It won't have any effect on it. Now I'll switch to my orange brush tip marker, and what I'm going to be doing is kind of like a quick coloring interval. It's perfectly fine if your marker strokes go over each other. This will have a really nice visually textured effect, and that's what I've chosen to do because it gives more dimension to the tiger's fur, and it also gives a nice natural feel to the image with some variation in vibrancy and color. If you use the marker slower, the color will be more saturated and quicker strokes have a slightly lighter color. Now that I've colored in my illustration, the last remaining element is the tiger's stripes. I've left the black as the last step because, like I've mentioned before, I don't want the black stroke to blend into my colors. I'm using the black brush tip marker for this, and what I'm doing is moving my hand in varying angles and directions. When I reach some tight areas, this flexible brush tip is incredibly useful. If I angle the brush higher and release pressure, I can fit into more narrow spaces. And when I leave the narrow spaces gradually, I can also reapply pressure and lower the angle of the brush so I can create these smooth and organic strokes. After I complete the thick stripes, I'm going to lighten my hand again, and I'm going to draw some thinner stripes around for further detail. And that's it. Take your time to become familiar with these movements and you'll be creating beautiful artworks in no time. The Twinmarkers are very ergonomic and easy to use, and they make this whole process very enjoyable. Inspiration is all around you, you just have to keep your mind open. This is an opportunity for you to learn how to trust your ideas and learn how to translate them into images. I wish you a fruitful artistic journey. This concludes our video on illustration techniques with the Twinmarker. If you liked our video, make sure to hit the like button and follow us on YouTube and our social media channels.